Hello there everybody and welcome to episode 1 of my new tutorial series for Rimworld version 1.5. This is going to be a complete tour through all the things that you need to know to get a stable colony that can launch itself a spaceship. It is a Let's Play-like tutorial series where I will guide you through all the processes and all the little things that will happen in between, because Rimworld is a very volatile game where things just happen, and learn how to handle things that just happen is really, really good, and I'm trying my best to give you a couple of things along the way that'll help you. I have disabled for this series the DLCs completely, because after taking long thinking about it, none of these three are necessary for the understanding of the game. Once you're done with understanding the core game, you can use that knowledge to understand biotech ideology and royalty easily, so it will only bloat up the series. That all being said, let's get started with how to start, and let's see how far we'll get in episode 1. So, we choose the crash landed scenario as this is the most approachable and easy scenario when you're new to the game. You get 3 people, a decent amount of gear, and a decent amount of technology. All the other scenarios here are really to make it a little bit more difficult on you, and since this is a tutorial series, we're not gonna. Cassandra Classic is the storyteller that will give you a steady experience. That means there will be very steady rooms where nothing happens or only neutral things happen, then bad things will happen, then nothing will happen, and neutral things will happen, and bad things will happen. And when you have played long enough with Cassandra Classic, you can actually really get a feeling for, oh, it's time for something. This is the feeling of this storyteller. Phoebe Chillax gives you very long-term times of just no interaction with the storyteller at all, and then it comes all crashing down. Many people say that she's actually way harder to handle than Cassandra Classic, and I approve. I really find that this storyteller is a little bit more difficult than she looks like. And then there's Randy Random, which is just, like the name implies, randomness. Events just happen. Some people say that there are mechanisms at work that you can understand and that make certain things happen to a reasonable way, but I don't understand Randy, and neither do you probably. So, we're rolling with Cassandra on Adventure Story difficulty. You can go, if you want to, for customization of the rules. If you do so, keep in mind that you do need to configure first what kind of difficulty you want to have, and then you can activate or deactivate whatever you want, change the ratios. I'll leave that to your own discretion, I just don't want to show it to you. We're going to stick with standard settings, because this is a tutorial series after all. So, here you get to set up how a world should look like. You can make the world wetter, hotter, or colder, or drier, and we can select how many people will live there. This is a very, very basic world generator, and the only thing worth mentioning is that the globe coverage of 30% looks weird at the first glance. You could set that higher, but in all honesty, you will not need that because the world is gigantic and you most likely won't be playing with the entire globe. So here we now get to select where we want to start. All the colorful icons that we see are encampments of the different factions of the world. We have 2 modern factions, 2 tribal factions, 1 savage tribe that will just stay hostile forever, and 1 pirate gang that will do the same. There's among these 2 factions always 1 that's hostile and 1 that's friendly. You get the idea. We get to select now where we want to start. Zooming in with the mouse wheel and WASD gets you there. You can also use the middle mouse button. And there are a couple of biomes available. There is Temperate Forest. I'm left clicking on these, by the way. Temperate Swamp. There's Boreal Forest. There's Desert. Tundra. You see, there are different layers of cold and hot biomes, and of course there is a certain logic behind that. The more south you go, the hotter it grows, the more north you go, the colder it goes. Temperate Forest is the easiest biome, and all the other biomes have a certain challenge going on for themselves. Tropical Rainforest has a higher rate of diseases, arid shrubland has a lot of predators and is generally pretty warm, so you have to deal with heat quite often. Deserts obviously have the same heat or cold issues, also almost no wood, and the polar regions have a very comparable things. When you're looking for a starting position, if you want to play a beneficial starting position that is good for you, you should really check out where are some of these purple houses and try to find a place that is pretty close to these. Don't try to be too much north or too much south. And for example, if it happens like it happens here, that I really don't like what I'm seeing here, you can always go back, randomize the seed, and retry it one more time. No problem with that. So, in general, I personally love to start on these fields here that have mountainous terrain or small hills, large hills, these things, as this will provide an ample supply of stone to work with. If you are settling down on these flat terrain fields, you will have really a lot less stone to work with. We're going to go for this little temperate forest small hills area. We have here a growing period that is half of the year. The temperature is a really decent thing. It's an all-round package that is easy to handle. We also have a close vicinity to somebody that is worth trading with. These people are currently hostile, but they can turn into allies later. Good. Let's press next, and oh, we are too close to these guys. So you see, our vicinity here is too close to their settlement, so we need to go a little bit further inwards. So if you'd be staying there too close to that settlement, you'd always get a negative impact on the diplomatic relations. Alright, here we now get to select our characters. Only the top 3 here are counting. The other 5 are people that eventually might happen to blunder into your party. They will crash land on other places in the world, so sometimes they just show up. We see here the talents of the people, their traits, and their background. The very important things is that you want to avoid any incapabilities as a beginner. Incapabilities are really fun once you know what you're getting yourself into, but at the start you just want people that are capable everywhere. So the traits go really all over the board. You see here that cannibalism, nudism, body modding, you name it. There's a lot of things. What we are now looking for is somebody, like I said, without any incapabilities. Also keep an eye on the health. Some people start out being terribly old and having already dementia, frail backs, or cataracts in their eyes. So that's just as a side note. Good. So we have here Renzi. Good fighter. She's good at medical and social and intellectual things. The flames you see here are indicators about how fast she will learn things. Double flame means she's gonna learn very fast. One flame means she's gonna learn fast, and no flames is very slow learning speed in Rimworld. So I'm gonna keep this person for now because it is very, very valuable to have a doctor and a researcher. And on top of that, she's also a decent fighter. So now we're going to keep re-rolling, and let's see. This guy is a good shooter. He's also good at constructing, cooking, animals, crafting. So that is absolutely fantastic. We're going to keep Conway. So let's randomize that one more time. And now you see down here that we have a lack in the plants department. So we are now going to roll specifically until we find somebody who's decent at shooting and decent at working with plants and has no terrible incapabilities. You can here, of course, seriously roll up your dream team or keep it entirely random. For me personally, I am a big fan of keeping things entirely random and such, but it is really up to you. Rimworld is a game that if you know what you're doing and the difficulty level ain't too high, can be very, very easy. It is very much about what you want to do about that game. So I'm gonna keep shield He might be incapable of artistic things, but he has a chemical interest, and that is very good for our future things in terms of demonstrations. Welcome, Mr. Space Bartender. So, as you see here, the only quality that my roster is lacking is mining. That is bad. So we're going to randomize this until we have somebody who's good at mining. So, look at that. Here we go. This is like now a researcher. So as you see there, it is quick to be in a difficult spot. It is easy to be in a difficult spot to have everything covered. And actually the game really doesn't want you to optimize like that. Just so you know, the backgrounds, by the way, influence the passions of your people quite tremendously. So some combinations are very unlikely. So mining and intellectual things, for example. As you see here, we do need to roll quite a while, and it hasn't come around yet. So that is something that we always have to take into account. So I'm going to re-roll that in the background, and I'm going to continue the video when I have that done. And here we go. So Andrew Furious is the person that we were looking for. He's a good miner, he's a good researcher, and that's where we can start now. Obviously, there is no right or wrong combination. If you know what you're doing, you can crash land with one naked person and you can still get a victory into the game, or build a spaceship and escape, because victory is a relative thing. So we're starting out now. People will crash land, and the first thing that we do is hit the space bar as soon as these have hatched out of their cryopods. Or, no, not cryopods, escape pods. So, zooming out of the map and pressing WASD gives you an overview about the region. We see here bodies of rock. We here have ruins that are scattered all over the place. But most importantly, here we have our people and the resources that they came with. You know, that's the stuff that is our starting gear. It is all marked with a red X. That is, it's forbidden to interact with it. So the very first things that we need are obviously try to survive and get ourselves a roof over the head. So the center of this map is already looking pretty good, with lots of natural formations that we can use to get ourselves into cover. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to allow the people to use the stuff on the ground. So we go down here into the button where there's Architect, Orders, and there is a tool called Allow. So if I click that and drag and drop this over this entire area, I can just allow all the things that are currently forbidden. Of course, you can also just manually click every single item and allow it manually, but yeah, that would take a while. So we've also started with a couple of weapons. With this start, you always start with a revolver, a knife, and a rifle. So when we select our people up here, you see all the people that we started with, you can go into their bio and you see their skills now. So Furious is definitely never going to touch a gun, so we're going to right-click the knife. After we have left-clicked him, right-click the knife, press Equip Plasteel Knife, and go over to the next one. So Conway and Shield are equally good at shooting. That's a pretty good thing. So Conway, right-click, equip the revolver, and let's see, where did the rifle end up again? Ah, the horse was on top of it. So right-click the bolt-action rifle and equip it. So everybody in our squad has now at least something to fight with equipped. Very important. So all the items that are now currently on the ground, you see on the left here, would be where the inventory of our colony is at. It's empty. It's because nothing is currently stored. So back to the Architect menu we go, and the first thing that we require is the stockpile zone. The stockpile zone is literally what the name implies. It's the place where you stock your stuff. So we're dragging and dropping that here over this area. Make it large, nice, and when you go and left click it now, here's the storage button. So here we see now all the manner of things that are allowed. The standard default set is allowing everything except for boulders, plant materials, like entire trees, or horses, because, obviously. Good. So when we now press the spacebar to release the time once more, you will notice that the people will now start carrying the items into the stockpile zone, because that is obviously one thing that is to be done. In Rimworld, your people will always try to fetch themselves some work that is either logical, something to eat, wander around, have a good time, or something that is ordered. So that is what we're working with. So we can, in the architect menu, also press into the structure area, and that is where we get all manner of different structures to work with. So walls can be built, and we're starting out with wooden walls because we're sitting in a temperate forest biome. You see, there are a lot of trees around us, so wood will be something that we can easily work with. So the very first thing is we're going to drag and drop walls around our stockpile zone. There we go. So to enter and exit the warehouse to be, we're going to install a door there. So you now get a warning that we don't have any wood stored. Obviously we don't have any. So architect, orders, chop wood. So drag and drop that over a couple of trees and press spacebar again. So our people have now the command to chop some trees and build that piece of walls and doors. So you see, everybody in your colony has skills like plants. That is what, for example, makes you chop trees faster. So Shield is really good at plants, whereas Furious is insane at plants. So these two guys get the job done super fast and super effective, whereas Conway is doing the construction work. If you don't configure anything, your people will randomly do things. There is a work menu here with priorities. Currently just looking very simple. It's a checkmark thing whether they do something or not. And we are going to configure the menu in the upcoming episodes more closely. I just want to give you that as a heads up. This is what defines who's doing what. The basic setup is good enough to get a little bit of work done, but in the long run, we will need to reconfigure the work schedule, otherwise this place will go bonkers. So our people are now using the resources given to put walls around the warehouse. This is important because every item here is currently deteriorating because it is not under a roof and it is outdoors. Eventually, items will deteriorate into nothingness, and it would be a shame if our valuable medicine or all the other valuable things would be deteriorating into nothingness, because that would be just them being lost. And it is really important to stress out that things like medicine are valuable, very much so. Therefore, we're putting a storage around that ASAP. The next thing that we need, though, is our people need a place to sleep at. They will be not happy for a long period of time to sleep under the open sky, although for 1 or 2 days that doesn't bother anybody. So we're now looking, when I'm zooming out here, for a position where we are going to build the area where people will be sleeping at. Since I encompass this square here, or this roughly square, to be the entire base to be, I'm going to try and set my area where the people will sleep at roughly here. This is as central as possible, because this way everybody will have a nice equal way from wherever he or she is working back to the place where they're going to sleep and live at. So, I'm not going to issue any other work orders right now until the warehouse is completed, though, because I really don't want these building orders to compete with one another, because the longevity of our resources is much more important than the short-term happiness of a couple of people that have to sleep under the open sky for a night. Yeah, it is April, but they can't survive that for a night. This is depending on your biome, though. In some biomes, this is not possible, and you need to have a roof over your head, but that's an entirely different story. Alright, so you see, as soon as this is completed, people will now automatically put a roof over the building. As soon as the roof is done, this building is sheltering the items, and sometimes people just take a break in their work and start reading a novel or going for a walk or things like that. Down here, by the way, you can configure how fast the game runs, and you can also navigate to that with the number keys. 1, 2, and 3 for differing speed values. I always end up on 2 for a standard speed, or 1 for crisis mode, 3 for just breeze ahead. Alright. So the packaged survival meal is now only deteriorating because it's outdoors, and now it's not anymore. So the room is now covered wide enough with roofs, so the game doesn't consider it an unsheltered area anymore, and none of the goods inside here are deteriorating anymore. But it is very important to note that some things still go bad. For example, here the raw fungus. It is food, it is unrefrigerated, and it has a shelf life. So unlike here, for example, the packaged survival meals, these have an infinite shelf life. Food that has a shelf life always needs to be refrigerated, which will be one of our next bigger milestones to hit, but not in this episode. Today we're going to work on the dormitory. So I will now create a little bit of a structure that will be good enough for all of our people. That was a little bit large. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to set up 3 bedrooms. Everybody will get his or her own bedroom here. Whoopsie, that was a door too many. So we just click it and cancel it. Because people in Rimworld, they hate sitting on top of each other. Period. They really, really hate that. Your colonists in the crash land start always, by the way, start also with an animal. So here we started with a horse called Notorious. We are going to handle that in the next possible moment. But right now, this animal doesn't do much except for being a passive member of our colony that will just passively eat by grazing, so you don't need to worry about them too much, but they can get themselves into trouble when people are attacking us and all those things, so you need to provide safety for your animals. But for today, our main interest lies in providing a shelter, roof over our heads, and a storage area for the items that we're gathering so they don't deteriorate anymore. There we go. So as you see, Conway, Shield, and Furious, they went to sleep on the ground. When we check out their needs value, you see they have food needs, sleep needs, and they have also positive and negative influences, so-called moodlets. So as you see there, here, there's a couple of positive things. Everybody starts with very low expectations because, you know, they know that they are new here. They also have something called initial optimism because the settlement is new. And as we see there, negative effects, sleeping on ground, sleeping outside, sleeping in the cold, that's minus 12 points. This is insofar important as if the mood of your people goes too low, you see that there are these little lines there. If these go too low for a prolonged period of time, they will suffer a mental breakdown. Suffering a mental breakdown is not good for your people. Suffering mental breakdowns is among the worst things in Rimworld to happen, and you should, if possible, always try to avoid that. Mental breakdowns can range from just wandering around for a day or two aimlessly, or just eating the entire fridge, to trying to straight up murder somebody. It is very wild what can happen. So we have these rooms now. Next thing we need, floors. So flooring can be made out of various materials. We're going to go for wood flooring here to begin with. Drag and drop that over all of the areas. Don't forget the doors because it drives me nuts if I forget them. It's a personal thing. I just hate it when there's dirt below the doors. And these floors now make the room inside nice to look at. This is very important because without a floor, people will hate the ground hard. So in Rimworld, everything which is just flat out nature has an innate ugliness level. You check it out here, there's a beauty display. Click it, and you see what is beautiful and what is not. Outside of rooms, you see dirt is not considered as ugly, but inside of rooms, it is. So if something is below a roof, dirt provides a negative rating of beauty. And here, providing these floors is neutralizing that. This is insofar very important as you don't want your people to get negative mood from sleeping in a bedroom. Quite the opposite is the case. You want them to get a good mood from sleeping in their bedroom. So everybody now has a bed. Here you see they are delivered in different qualities. This one is awful, this is poor. So if you are unhappy with the quality of your beds, you can also order them to deconstruct them. And let's see, I think Conway was my constructor. So here we're now right-clicking. First I select Conway by left-clicking him and right-click on that. And now I order him manually to make that. You have that kind of freedom to order the next thing your colonist does like that always. So let's reorder that, selecting him one more time. Right-click on the shadow of the bed and prioritize the work. When you are deconstructing something, you are always losing part of the building materials. That is something you have to keep in mind there. But an awful bed is seriously nothing I wanted to keep. So this one went with normal quality. Generally, it's easy put together. The higher the construction level, the higher the chance of putting together a decent bed. So, to make things now complete, we're going to put an end table right next to each of these beds and a dresser. There we go. You can rotate these things with Q and E, as the buttons here imply, and you see that there is a gray line connecting now between the dresser and the bed. These are extra furniture things that will increase the quality of sleep when you are sleeping there. So since we are sitting on huge amounts of wood, there's really no reason not to do this, especially since Rimworld has a strict learning by doing system. So that means whenever Conway is building something, he is getting better at building something. Therefore, to train him, it's best to let him build things. So, I'll leave this episode 1 at this point. We have now a colony that is working in its most fundamental things. We have a place where the people can sleep at, and we have a place where we can dump our resources at. But currently, we will eventually starve because we have no food income, nothing to get ourselves over the time, and therefore, that's what we're going to work on in the next episode. So thanks for watching, everybody. Drop me your comments down below. A thumbs up would be wildly appreciated, and consider subscribing to the channel. There is also a lot of good things in the description box down there. I'd be very happy if you gave that a look as well. And first and foremostly, I've put the list the playlist link to this one in there, so you can just go on there and watch all the remaining episodes there. You will also find in the description box my Discord, my Twitch, where I do stream quite regularly, and there is also, of course, a YouTube channel membership system by now that will allow you to pre-watch all the things that are scheduled for release. And of course, if you'd be so kind of to donate on PayPal, Patreon, or buy me a coffee, that would make me a very, very happy content creator. Thanks for being around, thanks for watching this video until the very end, and a big thanks to all the supporters of Icon Gaming. I deeply appreciate you guys, and I hope I'll see you on the next episode when we're going to talk about how to feed these guys. See you there, and have a good one.